In the universe created by God, order and beauty depend on the conformity of each part to God's will. He created all of them, and when the parts are rightly related to Him, they interact harmoniously with each other, and the result is a realm of great magnificence. But what if some of the parts do not conform to the Creator's will? The only parts of the creation that can do that, of course, are the beings that are personal. That is, the creatures to whom God granted freedom of the will. They alone have the power to choose between obedience and disobedience. Tragically, however, such a rejection of God's will has indeed taken place. One of the highest personal beings created by God rebelled against Him at some point in the distant past. Known in the Bible as Satan, a name meaning adversary, this powerful being was joined in his revolt by many of the other beings in the heavenly realm, as we see in Matthew 25:41, Ephesians 6:12, 2 Peter 2:4, and also Jude verse 6. And when God created Adam and Eve, He gave them dominion over the earth, and Satan tempted them to also disobey God. The account of that is found in Genesis 3, verses 1 through 24. Now, to make a long story short, the result was utter chaos. Where there had been harmony, now there was strife and suffering. And even though it was only the personal beings in God's creation who rejected His rule, the rest of the creation was harmed by this rebellion. The world was disastrously disrupted, resulting in a creation that now groans under the burden of mankind's choice and yearns to be delivered from the bondage of corruption. Romans 8, verses 18 through 22. Sin is the word that is used in the Scriptures to describe this disobedience. The Apostle John wrote that sin is lawlessness in 1 John 3 and verse 4. And when all is said and done, that is what sin always comes down to. It's not just doing something that makes us feel guilty, nor is it the transgression of whatever social norms that may be in effect. It is the violation of the objective laws of our Creator. Now, sin is a problem that affects everyone. Everybody who lives in this world suffers, at least indirectly, from the damage done by other people's sins, some of which may have even been committed before we were born. But if we're old enough to discern right from wrong, then we have a problem that is far worse than that, for we are guilty of sin ourselves. We know that we've disobeyed God, willfully doing things that were wrong, and the Apostle Paul put it this way in Romans 3:23, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Now, by God's design, the penalty for sin is death, Romans 6:23, and we fear it as well we should. But God had a plan ready to deal with sin and death. And the Bible is the story of that plan, its growth and development, its historical fruition in Christ Jesus, and the promise of its consummation in eternity when God has brought this present world to an end. Of Jesus Christ, the writer of Hebrews said, since therefore the children share in flesh and blood, He Himself likewise partook of the same things, that through death He might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is, the devil, and deliver all those who through fear of death were subject to lifelong slavery, Hebrews 2:14 and 15. Now, on our own, we would be incapable of fixing the problem of sin. If it took the death of God's Son to atone for what we've done and make our forgiveness possible, that is a gift that only God could give. Paul wrote, for while we were still helpless, at the right time Christ died for the ungodly. For one will hardly die for a righteous man, though perhaps for the good man someone would even dare to die. But God demonstrates His own love toward us, in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. To a great extent, our appreciation of the gospel of Christ is determined by how seriously we view sin. Those who deny the existence of God and the objective reality of sin will have no use for the gospel at all. But even those who acknowledge God may underestimate the seriousness of sin, at least in their own lives. If so, the gospel will not be to them the life-changing good news that it should be. So there is a great irony that confronts us. The gospel of Christ, if it is true, is the best news in the world. But its joy depends on our swallowing the bitterest medicine of all, the ugly truth that we've cut ourselves off from God by disobeying the laws that He designed for us. Friends, we thank you for joining us for our program today, and may God bless you with a wonderful day.